I have talked about creating connections in our spaces, and now let's talk about privacy and boundaries. Our homes should be like a shelter. We should feel safe there, and it should be a sacred space for us. And for this, we need privacy. When we are younger and we have our rooms, I feel like this is maybe more obvious, with a distinction that when you have siblings, you probably share your space with others. When we are older and we create our own homes with our own people, sometimes I feel like this boundary can be more fluent and we don't think about having our own room when we share bed, bedroom, bathroom, everything. It's not as obvious and it's not as straightforward, so let's talk about it today. Hi, I'm Maya. I'm a designer and I help you create spaces that support our lives, lifestyles, and well-being. And today we are talking about personal space in interiors. When I refer to privacy at home, I'm not talking about having your own room with closed doors and creating physical boundaries, because not only sometimes it's not possible to achieve, but also when we live with others, we want the connection and you don't want to close off from others. But at the same time, you need your emotional space and your private space. Knowing that if you are doing something important, you won't get interrupted, knowing that no one will browse through your stuff. You have to feel some ownership of the space. You have to have a space that helps you calm down and detach from conversations and from others, to silence your mind a little bit, especially if you are introvert. For me, it's crucial that when I work, I'm not interrupted, I'm in my zone and I don't have to worry about what's going on around me. Saying that, I still think that you can achieve it without your own room. For example, I'm working from my living room, but my partner is working from bedroom. And when he knows that I'm doing something important, he just doesn't interrupt me. He's doing his own thing and he respects my privacy, my boundaries, and my sense of calmness. Not sure how to call it. It not only works when I don't want to be interrupted, but also my desk in living room is mine and I know that what I have there is private to me. It's not about worrying if he will go through my stuff, because I don't really have anything to hide from him, but I just know that he wouldn't, and if he needs something he will ask because it's my workspace, and the same goes other way around. It's about creating respect with other people in your household. Additionally, it doesn't mean that this space is off limits. We often use each other's spaces. Those swaps are natural to us. We don't feel that someone is invading our space, because we respect the boundaries and we actually don't feel like it's ours. I'm not going to mess his things up by, I don't know, mixing some papers or switching cables. If I want to do more invasive changes, I will ask him because it's his working station. It works. It's based on the respect. Also, having these zones that have like physical space helps with communication and it helps with this feeling of privacy. So if you want to apply this rule to your home, think of tasks or spaces that are corresponding to each of the people in the household, and think of how you can assign some zones to each person. It doesn't have to be strict, as I said. You can easily use whatever you have, but at the same time, it's nice to know that a zone is dedicated to someone and they have more of a responsibility of it, but also they can use it more. Naturally, this also goes to storage areas and other zones in your home. When you have bathroom drawers, one side is for one person and the other is for the other. Of course, we all have similar stuff, so they can be grouped together, but it's important to know that you have your own shelf, your own drawer, your own wardrobe, whatever it is. I feel like this division helps you to have a sense of identity in the space, and also you can use it in the way that you like without conflicts or other problems with communication. This is especially important when you have more of an open plan layout of your home. Not all rooms and not all spaces have the same level of privacy. Naturally, a bedroom will have the most privacy and it's the most intimate space. When you invite guests, most often then they don't go into your bedroom. And even if you have guests that are close to you, there are times that some spaces are off limits. Wardrobe, drawers, nobody comes to your home and browses through your stuff. At least they should. The key here is that you are the person creating these layers of privacy, and you have to create some boundaries when it comes to your personal space, what you want to share and what you don't want to share. And of course, if you live with others, you need to do it by having multiple conversations, maybe even conflicts at first. But over time, you will all have your own spaces, and some boundaries later won't influence the connections that you have. For a space to feel private and more intimate, you have to have some zones. They can be created through the function of the space. You can have a living zone, dining zone, cooking zone. You can divide it through activity, work zone, rest zone. You can divide it through socializing aspect. You can have more social spaces and you can have more quiet spaces. You can even talk about it with other people with whom you live and decide which areas will be more conversation based and which more focus on quiet time and privacy. And going back to the layers of privacy, you can also have shared areas and more private areas, especially when you have something to close the area off. And this brings me to a tool that I think is the best in creating privacy in a space, and it's space dividers. Starting with something personal, I have mentioned that my partner is working from bedroom, but to divide the space and to give him more privacy, but also to separate work zone from sleep zone, we have installed curtains in the middle of the room, and it's really easy to visually shut it off. It also helps a little bit with acoustics, so win-win. You also have some classic solutions like screens. A screen from Alvar Aalto is perfection, and this is something that when I'm rich I want to invest in. But there are many different screen types and screens that you can use in your space that add more privacy, also add more interest, help you to create divisions in open spaces without touching the structure of the space. They are really flexible solution, but they are not the best when it comes to acoustics, and the same goes with curtains. For more sturdy zone division, I would suggest using furniture. You can use a wardrobe, you can use bookshelf. When I was younger, I shared a room with my sister, but we had created separation with a wardrobe that was standing in the middle of the room, dividing the space. If it doesn't have to be as strict of division, you can use bookshelves, as I said. They can be more see-through, which also creates interest without blocking fully the light and the air flow. If you want to make it more of a construction, you can see if there is a possibility of building a wall. And something that is trendy this year was trendy in modernism, but I think it's a good solution, are glass block walls. It's good because it divides the space, but still you have the light and it doesn't block everything and doesn't make the room darker and heavier. And if you are interested what other trends for 2026 I find useful, I will leave a link in the description and somewhere on the screen, because I have talked about it and I think they are quite nice this year. As always, I don't want to focus only on the visual aspect of privacy, and I mentioned that it's more of a mental thing, but also you can feel privacy through acoustics, and it's not something that you think about, but when you have bad acoustics at your space, you feel less intimate, you feel less private in a space. It's the feeling that you get when you are afraid that someone is listening to you. It's something that you feel in your space, but also in correlation with your neighbors. When they can hear you walking or talking, it kind of distracts you and you never know what they can hear. So to improve acoustic at your space, you want to add curtains, you want to add rugs, you can add some upholstered furniture, cushions, everything that is soft and that will absorb the sound. What more, you can also install some acoustic panels that will absorb sound. When you want better acoustics, add soft textures and add fabrics. And you want it to feel more intimate in a space and not to worry if anyone is overhearing you. This is interesting because it's not something that you are thinking about daily, it's more of subconscious thought. So even if you're not aware, it can influence how you feel in a space. I love an open space. I have mentioned it in the video about connections. I feel like it's easy to live in, but also I'm a believer that you need a balance in everything. Also here, I think that you need at least one room or one space that you can close off and have a private conversation or close your mess when you have guests. Want to be able to close the door and feel at peace there. So even though I really like open spaces, I think this balance is truly important. When it comes to privacy at home, it's not only about, oh fuck, you know what? I hate that ChatGPT got some phrases and it's using it so often that when I just want to say some comparison, it's not about this, it's about this, I feel like I'm talking like a robot. Also, English is not my native language, so it's this much harder for me to think about rephrasing something. When it comes to privacy at home, it's not only about the privacy inside, but it's also about what's outside. You want to keep your privacy also when it comes to your neighbors and what's happening outside of your home. In Poland, shared curtains are a staple at home, especially in cities when you have your neighbors on the opposite side of the street and the streets can be pretty narrow. You want to have some privacy. I know that it's more of cultural comparison because when you look at Scandinavian countries, they often don't have curtains and it's common that everyone can see what you are doing, but culturally they don't. In Poland, we have curtains as a standard and it's not pretty common to have bare windows. Where I'm going with it is that privacy can be defined different by different cultures and it's important to interpret it so that benefits you the most and it reflects your needs for privacy, and it's not a universal rule. And to close this video off, I want you to think about privacy in form of shelter, of feeling safe at your home. When you think about Maslow's pyramid, it's important to feel safe, and I think that privacy at home is the first and basic need that we all have. So make sure to take care of it and redefine your space so that it can support you and be a shelter for you. Other thing on the Maslow's pyramid is connection and social relationships. And I have recorded a video on creating connection in a space, which I would say can be a first part to this video, a complementary video, so go watch it next. If you haven't seen it yet, you can also see the video about trends that I mentioned earlier. If you have enjoyed this one, make sure to leave a like. If you want to see more from me, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.